Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. This is our ninth annual top 10 list of retail trends, that things that we've have, been seeing, experiencing, reading about over the past year or so. This list kind of started very informally. About 9 years ago, I was asked to present some trends to a brown bag luncheon, and I literally just jotted down 10 ideas off the top of my head, just an hour or two prior to the luncheon, and um, actually found that it worked out really well. And from there, the list is really has evolved quite a bit. My partner, Deb Miller, couldn't be with us today, but I do want to give her credit before I get started here for all the graphics and the color and all the photographs and the editing that has taken place for this presentation. If you would have seen this a couple of years ago, it was basically in black and white. So we've made a lot of progress in that area for sure. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started. This is kind of a countdown. We're going to start off with the number 10 trend for 2013. And I always start off with something concerning the economy, because, of course, that's what's going to drive retail. And this year, we call it the Cliffhanger Economy. It's kind of a confusing economy to make sense of, I think, because if you look at quite a few of the statistics, we should be undergoing just a rip-roaring recovery right now, as I call it here, the Roadrunner economy. Just to give you a few stats, during 2012, Ohio added 90,000 jobs. 15,000 of those were in manufacturing. Our unemployment rate dropped by 1.2 percentage points in 2012. Our weekly wage earnings were up 2.8%. So we have a lot of signs heading in a positive way. The housing market has recovered in terms of starts, sales, and prices, all in the upswing. Fracking in many parts of Ohio promises local jobs, plus the thought of someday achieving national energy independence. But what has happened is that because of the political wrangling in Washington, it's created a cloud of uncertainty for consumers. And one thing that we track pretty carefully in trying to look at what's going to happen with retail sales in the coming year is we look at consumer confidence. According to the Conference Board, consumer confidence stood at 73 in October of 2012. And just to give you a little bit of context, 100 would be normal. So it was at 73 in October. That dipped to 71 in November, down to 67 in December, and all the way down to 58 in January. In spite of all the good economic news, people were still feeling very uncertain, and when people don't feel good about things, they aren't going to shop. And in fact, the National Retail Federation is predicting only 3% growth in 2013 in terms of overall retail sales. It was 4% in 2012 and 6% in 2011. So that's quite a drop-off. Also, when you consider that inflation is forecasted at about 2%, that's really only about a 1% gain. When I wrote this trend, it was back in January when we were just looking at the first fiscal cliff. Of course, we're just now going through the sequester. So there's more worries on the horizon, ranging all the way from global recession to local cutbacks. So what does that mean for retail? Well, it's going to mean slower everything. We're not necessarily going to revert back into a recession, but it's going to slow down hiring. It's going to slow down inventory turnover. It's going to slow down new equipment and software installations. we're going to have fewer startup businesses, and the ones that there already exist are going to open fewer new stores and also open smaller new stores. Okay, so that leads into our next trend, outlet mall mania. And this is, at this point, this is kind of a Central Ohio trend. Just before Thanksgiving, we had two outlet projects announced at the intersection of 36 and 37 along Interstate 71. About a month later, we had two more outlet projects announced for Columbus. One would be in New Albany, and the other one would be in London or Madison County. I'll go through those in a little bit more detail here in a minute, but I want to start you off with just a little bit of background about the outlet mall industry. To be honest with you, before we had all these announcements in November and December, I had not really looked at the outlet mall industry in some time. I just kind of thought outlets were kind of a trend back from the 80s that maybe had just kind of gone away, but I was wrong about that. Outlet malls did flourish during the 1980s. They went upscale, they added food courts, more family entertainment, and they started producing goods that were specific for their outlet stores. And in the 1990s, outlet malls actually got overbuilt, and you ended up with a lot of undercapitalized projects that were in remote locations. They underwent a shakeout during the 2000s, and the ones that survived were stronger than ever. Something else that happened during the 2000s, and that is that the relationship between the manufacturers of fashion goods and their department store customers kind of eroded. And one of the things that was responsible for that is that the department store segment, for one thing, it shrank and consolidated, but department stores also increased by a large percentage their private label merchandise in their stores. So that squeezed out a lot of vendors. And a lot of vendors were finding that they could actually make more money opening outlet stores than they could in selling to department store clients. So in the past, outlets would not go within a certain amount of miles to their nearest department store account. Those rules really no longer apply. And now the ideal location for an outlet mall is to be near a major population center. So that's why you're seeing so many of these proposals. In fact, there's 58 projects that are being proposed, 58 outlet mall projects across the United States right now. And of course, not all of them are going to get built. But last year, there were 8 new projects that were built across the United States. And I think that's kind of remarkable when you put it into the context that the last time an enclosed regional mall opened anywhere in the United States was back in 2006. Another sign that the outlet industry has really made a big comeback is the company that owns more traditional regional malls than any other company in the world is Simon Property Group. And in 2004, they surprised the industry by going out and buying one of the major outlet mall developer companies. And in fact, in this most recent year, they measured sales per square foot at their 72 outlet malls, and they found that their sales per square foot for outlet stores was 90% higher than its traditional mall stores. So anyway, today you have over 200 outlet chains, brands like Calvin Klein, Coach, Tommy Hilfiger, even some of the department stores are opening their own outlet chains. Saks Fifth Avenue has Off Fifth. Nordstrom has the Nordstrom Rack. They're all opening these outlet stores 30 to 70% off. So you can see why they're still popular with consumers. Okay, let's move on to number 8. The signal and the noise. I asked the audience about this a couple weeks ago. The guy that's pictured there is his name is Nate Silver, and when I asked if anybody knew who he was, absolutely nobody did. But he's kind of one of my personal heroes. He's kind of a data geek, and what he did was that he was able to predict the presidential election within a percentage point for each of the candidates this past election season. He was also able to predict 50 out of 50 Senate races correctly. And what makes it even more interesting is that he doesn't do any of his own polling. He uses published polls that other people go out and do, and he uses statistical techniques to correctly predict these political races. So, what does that have to do with retail? Well, it has a lot to do with retail, actually. It's really it's one of the big new trends is how to use big data in a retail context. And depending on who you ask, big data is going to involve one of three things. It could involve more data from more sources. Number 2, it could involve analytical models that have the ability to assimilate data from disparate sources. And number 3, it allows for more real-time analytics and dashboards where you can change things on the fly. The challenges include mining all this growing data streams and finding those needles in the ever bigger haystack. Being able to turn around the data quick enough for real-time decision making, and how to store and retrieve the data in an efficient manner. There was some big news here in Central Ohio at the end of last year. IBM announced that they're going to put a data center in Central Ohio, and the folks that made that happen were Huntington Banks, Limited Brands, Cardinal Health, and Nationwide, and they pulled the resources to recruit IBM here because they have big data needs of their own, and they want to have that technology and those analytics available to them. IT spending is topping the list again this year of priorities for retailers, includes data analytics, digital marketing, social media, and mobile technologies. Also want to mention that IBM is the new kid on the block, but actually Ohio for a long time has had some institutions that would be associated with big data. Like here in Columbus, we have Battelle, we have Chemical Abstracts, we have OCLC, which stands for the Ohio College Library Center, and we have Big Research that does consumer research with thousands and thousands of consumers each week. So, certainly Ohio is going to be a player in this, and I think that's pretty exciting. So what's the downside, though? Well, sometimes carrying can be creepy. The next big thing that a lot of these companies are working on, they want their stores and their websites and their social media to learn how to talk to each other about their favorite person, you. Do they know things about you that you don't know about you? They probably do. Is database marketing just an update on good old-fashioned customer service? In other words, knowing what your personal tastes are? I think you could possibly look at it that way. However, too much targeting can constrict the choices for your more casual browsers. To use an example, there's a chain retailer that was able to identify their online customers by gender. So they thought logically, well, we'll start sending out messages about our men's products to males and about our female products to women. And what they found out, they were losing out on a lot of potential sales because actually the women were shopping the men's side of the store quite a bit more than what they had realized. Okay, while we're kind of talking about technology here, let's move into the number 7 trend, mobile momentum. M-commerce moves forward on several fronts. First of all, keeping the faith, retailers are actually doubling down this year on mobile spending. They haven't really been able to identify return on investment at this point, but they know it's coming, and they're, as I just said, they're actually doubling their spending without really showing a return just yet. For one thing, though, there's still a lot of room for growth in terms of smartphones. 36% of American adults owned a smartphone in 2011. That was up to 44% in 2012. So there's still a lot of room for growth there. But what we're finding, and I think this is why they're having trouble identifying specific ROI, is that smartphones are primarily being used as a research tool during shopping. They're not being made to actually make purchases. Right now, they account for less than 1% of all retail sales are made over smartphones. A related problem to that is that in many cases, the mobile apps on your smartphone won't sync with your other devices, such as your desktop or laptop computer or your iPad or whatever else that you're using. And that's another big priority in terms of IT spending this year, is to get those to sync better. Second thing I put under mobile is the idea of digital wallets or mobile wallets. They're providing easy payment options. Read an article where it said that right now only 8% of smartphone users are actually interested in using their smartphones as a wallet. However, the same article said in 3 years that mobile payments are going, using your smartphone, they're going to be the number one way that people pay for retail purchases. That's by 2016. So this is a trend that's going to come at us really fast. Starbucks, I think, is kind of a leader in this category. They have a deal with a company called Square, where basically when you walk in the store and you kind of wave your smartphone at their cash register, it instantly recognizes you, and you can go ahead and order your drink, and it allows you to check out basically using your phone. It's a cashless transaction. Another way that stores are trying to put smartphones to use, to work for them instead of against them in terms of showrooming, which I'm going to talk about here in a second, is that they're offering mobile coupons on smartphones. Also, check-in discounts. If you check in after you're in the store, they'll immediately offer you a percentage off on some type of merchandise. Last thing I wanted to mention is under mobile money is swipe fees. These are the fees every time you use your debit or credit card. A certain percentage of the payment goes to the credit card companies. Those have tripled over the past 10 years, and they're really a silent killer of a lot of smaller businesses that can't afford to pass those costs along to their customers, and something that is being looked at the national level in terms of legislation, but something that I'm sure that your smaller merchants could probably tell you a whole lot more about than I can, because they're ones that are having to deal with it. And from what I've heard, for a lot of merchants, swipe fees is one of the largest expenses on their income statement. Something that most of us never even think about. Okay, last thing that I wanted to talk about, as long as we're talking about mobile, is called a movable feast. This is a trend that has been really big here in Central Ohio. I haven't seen it quite as much as we travel across the state, but I don't see any reason why some of the smaller towns and smaller markets couldn't also have food trucks. The cost of operating a food truck is about 15% of the cost of a full-service restaurant. And I think that what you see happening in Columbus is, these are not your father's food trucks. These are in a lot of cases, very high-end gourmet takes on ethnic cuisines. I mean, it's not just hot dogs and tacos. It's crepes and sushi and all kinds of things like that. And I think usually your food truck operators are a little bit younger, and a lot of them have a lot of chef training, and they've worked in some of the better restaurants here in Central Ohio, and I think a lot of them are just kind of frustrated and want to open their own place but can't really afford it. So this is kind of a stepping stone. Although something that we're also seeing now is that established restaurants are also operating food trucks to expand their brand identity. Here in Columbus, we have some resources that can help these folks get started, including ECDI with their Food Fort program. They can actually rent out carts and rent out their kitchen to food truck operators. Another interesting thing that we have here in Columbus is called Dining Hall, and it's a kind of a bare bones facility, but they do have tables and chairs, and they offer condiments and napkins and all that, and they also take payment. And what they do is they allow 4 or 5 food trucks to come and park in their parking lot every day, and then the patrons can pick up their food to the food truck. They go inside and they pay at this centralized place that's called Dining Hall, and then they can go sit down and enjoy their meal. So it's providing some amenities for the food trucks. Okay, I said that we're going to talk a little bit about showrooming. Showrooming, this is a term that kind of came out of nowhere about, I don't know, year or so ago. And what it generally refers to is where someone will take their smartphone into a store, and they'll look at the selection there, and then once they decide what they want, then they'll go on their phone and try to find the lowest price for that product, and not necessarily even buy it at the store that they use their showroom for. So the big beneficiary of that trend has been Amazon, and they've made some big gains on Best Buy and Walmart. They're still number 3 in consumer electronics, but they're coming up pretty fast on the 2 leaders. Last year, they had a 41% increase in revenues, which is pretty amazing, because that wasn't on top of a small number. That was on top of a pretty big number. They cracked the top 10 retailer list for the first time in 2012. Every year they do a customer satisfaction survey among e-commerce customers. Amazon has been number 1 in that poll for 8 straight years now. Something else that Amazon experimented with over the holiday season, they went to what they called dynamic pricing. And you remember I was talking about big data a little while ago. Well, what they've been able to do is they can track with real-time statistics what their gross margin is and what their turnover ratios are by product category, and then in real time they can adjust the prices in order to either increase their turns or increase their margins, whatever they need to do. So it's a very innovative strategy, and it's not something that you can really do in store. You can't really, change your prices like that instantly as you can online. Something else that Amazon is working on is same-day shipping. They were really the first ones to roll out free shipping. It's really no longer considered to be a perk by consumers. They just kind of expect it now. But same-day delivery, that's the next big thing. And they actually did it in about 3 or 4 markets where they had major distribution centers. But the way it would work is you had to have your order in by 11 a.m. that day, and there was a $9 charge. And if you got your order in by 11 o'clock, you were guaranteed to have it by 5 o'clock that day, which is it's pretty amazing when you think about the logistics involved in that. So Amazon is the one that's really kind of benefiting from a lot of these trends. I guess someone's getting ahead. Usually, someone else is at the cost of someone else. In this case, I would say is Best Buy. Just 2-3 years ago, Best Buy was one of the most successful chains in America. I think they really kind of benefited from the whole technological era that we're still kind of going through. But in recent years, their store count is down, their employee count is down, and their store sizes are getting much smaller. And of course, that's all correlated with their stock price, which is also not doing well. One thing that Best Buy, Target, and some other big box retailers are doing to respond to showrooming is that they now would do online price matching, where they keep track of what Amazon is asking for the same products that are in their store, and maybe 4 or 5 others. And if you bring that up, bring up your smartphone and show it to them, and it's on their list, they will match that price. But bottom line for Best Buy, their in-store bricks and mortar sales were down 5% last year, and BestBuy.com was up 10%. So I think even for a big box store like Best Buy, the writing is really on the wall that the growth is really going towards e-commerce. So what do you do if you do have a bricks and mortar store? What are some of the ways that retailers are luring online shoppers offline? Well, one strategy is if you can't beat them, join them. Staples agreed to be the Amazon pickup spot in order to increase store traffic. In other words, you might work at an office building and might not get off of work until 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and you don't necessarily want the UPS guy to leave the package on your porch for that long. So you can have it dropped off at Staples and pick it up on your way home, and Staples is hoping while you're in the store, maybe you might pick up some other things. So I thought that was pretty interesting because, otherwise, Amazon and Staples are pretty fierce competitors, particularly in the office supply and office equipment segment of the market. Another thing that retailers are using to get people in the stores is product sampling. Promotes the trial of new products and provides valuable consumer feedback. The example, I kind of had to laugh at this. A good example of this is Walmart. Walmart has a program that's called Goodies, I believe, and if you sign up for this program, you get a box of product samples each month that you pay $20 for, by the way. And anyway, you're kind of in this exclusive group that gets to kind of play with these products first. And all you have to do in exchange is you have to fill out a survey and send it back to Walmart. So sit back and kind of think about that. What Walmart is doing is actually getting its customers to pay it for market research that the rest of us pay thousands and thousands of dollars for. Walmart is getting their customers to pay for it. And only Walmart would think of something like that. Okay, next. This one I called Old Dogs, New Tricks. Russ Never Sleeps. I think really one of the most interesting stories in all of retail right now is JCPenney. Um, they got a new CEO about a year ago, a guy named Ron Johnson, and Ron Johnson was responsible for Apple stores. He's the one who started their stores and decided that he was ready for a new challenge. So he went to JCPenney, and kind of like their counterpart Sears, JCPenney has kind of been stuck in the middle for a long time, and they seem to be slowly kind of dying off. Just to be blunt about it. So I think the one thing that Ron Johnson couldn't do when he took over at JCPenney is to keep on doing the same thing. So he decided they were going to make some big changes. He came in, and Penny's was known, of course, for its sales and its coupons. And they had over 600 sales a year before Ron Johnson came on board. And in fact, NPR, they did a story about JCPenney, and they compared sales to drugs for housewives. And it's like, what happens when a store wants its customers to quit? And they actually told a little story here from a customer. She said, I came home and I cried over it. My husband's looking at me like, what's wrong? Said Carol Vickery, who shopped at the store in Tallahassee, Florida. Penny's doesn't have sales anymore. I need my store back. So the company redesigned its stores to try to make JCPenney a destination for the younger, hipper crowd. They're putting in boutiques. They have about 10 of them in their larger stores right now. They're getting ready to roll out 20 more, featuring well-known designers such as Michael Graves. But the problem is that the new crowd hasn't shown up yet. So what do we do in the meantime, I guess? Ron Johnson, when he announced this new program, he says, we must retrain the customer to understand value. Well, the customer responded by retraining Ron Johnson on understanding that the value of the JCP stock is now about half of what it was before. So I guess that's why I meant when's the customer right? Well, even when they're wrong, I think we all know the answer, and I think JCPenney could tell us the answer to that now too. Just a little bit of an epilogue to that story. They are going to bring sales back this year, but not 600 times a year. But they have given in. They're going to bring back some promotional events and some coupons this year. Some other ways that industry stalwarts are innovating to remain relevant. Nordstrom Direct now offers seamless multi-channel fulfillment for any product, for any customer, anytime, anywhere. And I think that's really the goal for everybody, is to have all these different channels, to be very seamless. Any customer, anytime, anywhere, any product. I think that's the goal. Target came out with an interesting strategy where they have some brands that they're offering only online. They're trying to build their online traffic. Let's see. Moving on. We always cover some pop culture trends every year, because we think that retail trends in the long run, that they reflect popular culture. So the first one is, this is a trend that we've been following for a long time, but it's a trend that just seems like it never stops, and that's the humanization of pets. It's one of the biggest trends in this country, and for instance, we looked up some statistics here. We found that dog licenses are growing at a rate twice as fast as birth certificates in the state of Ohio. And guess what? There's more cats than there are dogs. So we're actually adding dogs and cats at a faster pace than we are humans in this state. Your typical owner is going to spend about $600 a year per dog and about $400 per year per cat. That's according to the one of the pet associations. However, in just I collect articles on these pet trends, and just kind of scan through some articles I've collected. You could go buy that $600 a year for your dog really quick. For instance, there's $6,000 dog houses out there, $3,000 jog-a-dog treadmills. You got electronic fencing, vet bills, grooming. Doggy daycare is a big thing. Special foods and treats, and let's not forget the toys. They're very important. And some companies are even offering burial plots where you can have your you have your pet buried next to you. Even Walmart got into this trend this year. They're rolling out a private label line of dog food. Excuse me, I used the wrong word there. It's called Food for Dogs. Don't call it dog food. It's food for dogs. Anyway, it's called Pure Balance. So it's a trend when Walmart endorses it. Next popular culture trend, Buffalo Gals when she come out tonight. We're seeing genders getting blended, especially impacting in-store marketing. I already mentioned that more women are shopping the men's part of the store, men's clothing particularly. Had an uptick last year. I should say men's clothing sold to women. Meanwhile, manscaped males accessorize and moisturize. Interesting trend. One company I was reading about is Dove came out with a new line of moisturizers that they call Men Plus Care. It went from $0 to $100 million in 2 years. They just introduced it in 2010, and by 2012, it was a $100 million brand. We're also seeing that impact children's merchandising in terms of toys. And one of the top toy categories for 2013 is construction sets. But they're not just for little boys now. And in fact, Barbie has even come out with a new construction set, but with pink building blocks. So I don't know if that. I have written here it breaks down gender stereotypes, but I'm not really sure that's true. Pink building blocks. So anyway, and then the last thing I wanted to mention under that is attitudes are evolving in terms of gay rights and gay pride and gay marriage. You had quite a few fashion retailers that jumped on that bandwagon, particularly during Gay Pride Month last summer. JCPenney came out in support of that. In fact, just this past week, over 100 corporations signed a brief for the Supreme Court supporting gay marriage. And, that's something that was, that's something that's happened rather suddenly, in my opinion. I think, 3, 4, 5 years ago, that would have been a completely taboo topic. But corporations, they want to get ahead of it this time and not be seen as being kind of backwards, particularly if you're in the fashion industry. You want to be seen as being a little bit more progressive. Last one, you might be a redneck if you have a strong preference between TSC and Rural King. And I picked this one out because I couldn't help but notice that, every time I look at sales increases, across, 50 or 60 chains, the one that always kind of sticks out is TSC, Tractor Supply Company. They had a 15% growth spurt last year. They have 1,100 stores, and a lot of their growth, they actually contributed to animal and pet food gains. So that kind of ties back in with the pet trend. The other one in this category that is caught our notice is Rural King, and they're a closeout store. They carry a lot of similar merchandise as TSC, but they carry closeout products and offer a lot of deals on outdoor type products. And I think that their real claim to fame, though, is that they're going into empty Walmart stores. They've gone into 7 locations in Ohio that probably were sitting vacant. I'm gonna guess, at least 10 years. A lot of these Walmarts where they close one store and then open one twice as large across the street. So finally, somebody's going in and infilling those spaces. Okay, now we're up to the sector spotlight. What's hot and what's not? Okay, what's hot? Ugly sweaters. We had, over this past Christmas, we had theme parties featuring yards of yarn so hideous that they embarrassed the sheep that produced them. They were all the rage here in Columbus. What's not? Sweating Ugly, Lululemon, which specializes in yoga wear for ladies, grew by 65% in 2012, fourth fastest growing chain in America. All right, what's hot? Guns. Cabela's is getting ready to open here in Ohio tomorrow, up in Delaware. 80,000 square foot store devoted to hunting and fishing and camping merchandise. Gun permits were up by 40% in Ohio over the past 2 years. So I think that of all the retail categories, that's probably the hottest one for whatever reasons. What's not, though? If you have guns, then what's not? Roses. That's the name of a discount store that has entered the crowded Ohio market. They're going into what I would call Class C spaces here in Central Ohio. They're going into some of the Big Bear stores that closed down about 10 years ago and have never been occupied. And it just seems like to me that we already have a lot of discount stores and dollar stores in Ohio, so this is one more. Okay, what's hot? Afternoon tea. Tea only shops is a trend that we're seeing out there. In fact, Starbucks is rolling out a concept called Tazo Tea, which is a tea only store. What's not? Late night fast food. Does America really need a fourth meal? That's what they're advertising this as, Wendy's and McDonald's food after midnight. Okay, what's hot? American Girl. That's the name of a store that's going into Easton. It offers vintage dolls, outfits for the dolls, and hairstyling for the dolls. It's a major tourist draw. In fact, it's going to anchor a whole new section of Easton that's devoted to families. So what's not? Fat Grandpa. And that's the guy there. He's actually on a Harley three-wheeler. The sales of those were up 45% this past year to the Born to Be Wild crowd. Okay, what's hot? New shoes. Footwear was the surprise top seller over the holidays. What's not? Wardrobing. It's a term I had not heard before, but apparently Ohio men were busted for wearing gowns to weekend transvestite balls and then returning their purchases on Monday morning. So there's a new term that you've learned today, wardrobing. All right. Now I'm going to be a little serious here just for a minute. In spite of the picture of Flo there, kiss my grits, but I think that's kind of appropriate because I want to talk about the wages that we're paying a lot of our retail associates, and it's not only wages, but the whole thing is just kind of take it or leave it. Chains are slashing their hours. Nobody gets more than 30 hours. No matter how good of a worker you are, they're not going to give you more than 30 hours. The supervisors have been told not to do that. The reason is they want to avoid paying benefits. According to the New York Times, the average full-time associate earns $17 per hour. About $12 of that is wages, $5 in benefits. It compares to a part-timer. They're making about $11 an hour, $9 in wages, $2 in benefits per hour. About 20 years ago, the retail workforce was about 70% full-time, 30% part-time. Today, it's just the opposite. It's 70% part-time, 30% full-time. And it's not only the wages, but I had mentioned big data earlier, and one of the uses of big data is to engineer work shifts for these employees so that they most closely match the sales per hour for each of the stores. So these stores are using the computers to figure out the most efficient work plans. So for the employees, it means that they could be working anywhere from 2 to 5 hours on a shift. No one really gets 8 hours anymore. And on top of that, your shifts are non-standard from week to week. You might be working on Wednesday evening one week and Tuesday afternoon the next week, et cetera, et cetera. That really makes it tough for these workers to manage their responsibilities outside of work, whether it be childcare. Maybe they need a second job just to be able to survive on these low wages, or maybe they're taking classes. So that's one side of it. And then on the other end of it, if you do want more hours, you need to be on call, ready to go at any minute when the phone rings. And if you're not, your name's going to get knocked down to the bottom of the list. So one thing I looked at is I looked at sales per retail employee in 2000 versus 2010. And taking out inflation, I found that there was a 30% increase in retail sales per employee. In terms of salary, the average retail worker salary increased by less than 1% over the same period of time. So I guess my point is I just don't really see that these retail chains are sharing their productivity gains with their workers. So usually when we talk about labor, I'm really talking about Walmart, and Walmart certainly is the poster child for labor issues in the retail world. But let's look at somebody else here. Instead of picking on Walmart all the time, but let's look at Apple Stores. Apple Stores generates $475,000 per employee. That's double the second best in the industry, which is Tiffany. So they have the highest sales productivity by far in the industry. They pay their associates an average of $25,000 per year. So basically, these are low-paying, no-commission jobs. Don't really have a career path other than you can become a store manager. And most of their employees are recent college graduates. So, I got, $25,000. I guess that's not bad, for a retail job, but even though these folks are overqualified. But then I look at Tim Cook, CEO. He took home $378 million, just one person in 2011. And again, Apple is probably one of the better places to work in retail. A few retailers, though, have seen the light, and they are trying to invest more rather than less in human resources. For instance, independent merchants still have mostly full-time workers on staff. 60% of their workers are full-time. Hobby Lobby decided that it needed subject matter experts, not just order takers. So it raised its wages $1 per hour across the board. And several retailers have made the best places to work list. Apple is actually usually at the top of those lists. But I think overall that the retail industry still has a long way to go in addressing its labor issues. Okay, we're down here to the number one trend. And This is something I put together particularly for the Main Street managers. My partner Deb Miller and I, we've been doing a lot of work across the state in downtowns, and because we have a lot of retail experience, I think a lot of people hire us initially to fix their retail, and that's really kind of tough. And I'll tell you why. First of all, Ohio is losing its independent retailers in droves. Looked at statistics again from 2000 and 2010, found that in Ohio that we lost 30% of our small-scale establishments between that's less than 20 employees between 2000 and 2010. And another way to put that is every year, this is not over 10 years, but this is every single year, we're losing 74 gift shops, 50 drug stores, 38 sporting goods stores, 37 toy and hobby shops, 39 women's fashion boutiques, 55 florists, 51 jewelry stores, and 26 bookstores every year in Ohio. And most of those are independents. Meanwhile, big box stores are increasing at a rate of 2% a year, and e-commerce is increasing at a rate of 15% a year. So what we're really finding, though, is that the new anchor stores of downtown are your restaurants. And time after time, when we talk to customers about what do they want in terms of restaurants, these are things that always make the list. They want fresh and local foods. They want outdoor seating options, and they want alcohol options. The good news, though, is that the menu of winning formats is endless. Just to give you a few examples of different formats, you have grills, cafes, diners, delis, cantinas, bistros, taverns, pubs, banquet halls, chop houses, wineries, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of different formats. And I would say not only do you need a restaurant, but you need a restaurant row in your downtown. The other thing to get people coming downtown is you have to emphasize events, arts, entertainment, and recreation. Because retailers have to have a market to react to. Retail is not a catalyst. So if you want to help the retail in your downtown, you have to find things to occur in your downtown that are going to attract people. And I think a lot of times we think about the big annual blowout, but smaller recurring events are just as important to building foot traffic as that big event that you have every year. Merchants should embrace the same philosophy by having a planned calendar of in-store promotions that hopefully will tie in with your Main Street promotions. And in many communities, many of you have old theaters that you're looking to restore to capitalize on a growing interest in the arts. So I guess that would be the message I'd like to leave you with. If you're going to stay relevant in the internet age, that you have to create experiences in your Main Street, in your downtown, to get the people there if you want the retail to thrive. Anyway, that's all I have today. We'll take some questions now. Before we get to the questions, I just wanted to mention, though, if you want to see the full version of the top 10, you can go to our website, which is www.blvd-strategies.com, and you can download the detailed top 10 there.
Thank you, Chris. And excuse me, I'll send that a link out to everyone as well afterwards when we do the follow-up. Please start sending in your questions now. Just a quick commercial break since we're a little bit limited on the remaining time here. Just that if you have any questions, please contact Chris directly. Also, that our next event coming up is next Tuesday. That is our diversity training workshop. That's going to be in Painesville, Ohio. You can find more information on that on our website, which is www.heritageohio.org. So if there are any questions, please send them in now.
How many people?
Oh, I'm not seeing any questions coming in, but once again, if you have any questions that come up later, you can always contact Chris or us, and his contact information is there. Our contact information, just info@heritageohio.org. Thank you for attending today, and thank you again to Chris and to Boulevard Strategies for agreeing to do this today. This is always useful information for all of us, particularly Main Street managers and downtown businesses. Thank you. Next webinar coming up is going to be on April 3rd. We're going to be talking with the Jeffries Foundation and how preservation, they're modeling for that through their nonprofit organization. Thank you, and have a good day.